is the 45th Eudoo interview of 100. So
of 100, cool, 55 to go, awesome.
55 to go.
Yeah.
But I'm here at 45, very present with you, Guy, and really excited to hear what you've got to say. So perhaps you'd be good enough to introduce yourself to the audience out there,
Sure.
beyond the black camera.
No problem. So I'm Guy Annan. I'm the producer here at Young and Shan. I started here about a year ago, first sort of starting as a studio manager, where Young and Shan didn't have a huge amount of process in place, and we were growing so rapidly that they needed someone to come in and enforce a bit more process to the team. So that was my role for a while, once we got that set up. Over time, we just kept growing more and more. So I've taken a sideways step into more of a producer role, where I work within an allocated team and allocated bunch of brands and projects. So yeah, that's where I fit in. Yeah.
Cool. And so for you, New Zealand in 3 words. What words might you pick?
Okay, so the words that I picked were global, influencing, and omnipresent for my 3 words.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are new.
I thought they might be.
We've not had those before.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
I'm sure you got a lot of ones to do with innovation and growth and things like that. I tried to go on a little bit different sort of a tangent. So yeah, if you want, I can run through it.
No, absolutely.
So
explain, that'd be fantastic.
Global, for the first part, is from my personal experience with travelling overseas and working overseas. And New Zealanders overseas are not so much of a rare find anymore, but a good find. When someone lifts that rock and they find a Kiwi working overseas, they're normally doing something really great, really wonderful. They're either learning a lot or just about to start on some really cool journey. And I found that with the majority of New Zealanders that I met overseas. So I guess that does come back to New Zealand as a whole, rather than just New Zealand as a country. But I think it comes back down to us as a country being global citizens, and really making that mark not just for New Zealand but in the global community.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So is that why the influencing word came?
Yeah, and that's another huge part of it.
Yeah.
We have, New Zealand, it used to be such a uncommon thing to come across a New Zealander, but like I was saying, like now you pick up rock and we're everywhere.
Yeah.
And we do have a strong influence based off that.
Yes.
There's no longer that cliche of where is New Zealand. Like everyone knows where New Zealand is.
Yeah.
And we need to write off that.
Yeah. That's very clear. So where do you think New Zealand should go to? What are the words that should define its future?
I think I wrote these ones down as well.
Yeah, just by all means refer to the piece of paper.
Okay, so
don't have it open.
What I think New Zealand should head towards is more of a disruptive, impervious, and adaptive future. So this, for me, I think comes back down to our government and where we stand in the global community, with the sort of laws that are getting placed throughout the world, what's ethical, what's right, and what we should be standing for within the global community, rather than adhering to and following what other larger countries are doing, such as America.
So very much creating the laws that reflect New Zealand, the culture that reflects New Zealand.
Yeah.
Can you give perhaps may or may not be able to give an illustration off the top of your head, but an illustration of where that, an illustration of what you mean by that?
What I mean by disruptive? I mean, I think if you look at some of our stars and some of the people who are doing well overseas, one example being a comedian, Jemaine Clement from Flight of the Concordes. there's a lot of stars out there, and even in New Zealand, who are kind of one-trick ponies, who do, do something great and get out into the market, and then it's done, and it's their influence is over from that one trick. We need to be more disruptive with sorry, I'll just backtrack on that. I think I'll go. Sorry, the example of Jemaine.
I'm with you. I think you're saying one-trick ponies need to become a disruptive theme, as opposed to being famous, say in that case, for one thing and then disappearing. What I'm hearing is become a genre. Would that be
I mean, when we go and do something in the global community, we shouldn't just be writing off that fact. We should be using it to a greater effect. And my example with Jemaine Clement was basically, he's not just Flight of the Concordes comedian.
No.
He's a writer, he's an actor, he's an editor, he produces movies, and they're not just comedy based either. So he's done something well to a point, but it hasn't just maintained. He's gone the step above.
He's evolved further.
Yeah, and I think that's not just reaching expectation. That's going far and far beyond. So it's a lot better.
Yeah, I understand that. So what I'm hearing is fulfilling potential in every possible domain.
Exactly.
In his case.
Yeah, exactly. Like reaching a goal, and I mean
and then
that's simple.
to the next one, and the next one, as opposed to going, done that, bagged that, go to the beach.
Yeah, exactly. Count your checks. Yeah.
Off you go. Yeah. Get a boat.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephen Tyndall talks about that. He says one of the challenges of New Zealand is the irony that a lot of people's aspiration is to build a company, to sell it and go to the beach. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to ignore as an ambition. It's harder in a way to go, oh, let's keep going to the world, when actually that is quite hard work and not as much fun as for many people, is going to the beach and going fishing every day. You can kind of understand.
Yeah. Well, it's just boring. Like, and I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
In a year's time, you've all that fame and success that you built up that was so great, it's dissipated.
That's right.
You need to keep growing, keep adapting.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. So, is there, maybe Flight of the Concordes is a great example of what you're talking about in terms of that disruptive sense of, New Zealand celebrities and people that stand for the New Zealand you would like to see. Yeah, I mean, and I feel like they really wrote off what I was talking about sterilizing and stereotyping New Zealanders. Like, they came up and they said, hey, we're from New Zealand. Everyone kind of knew that at the time, but they still tried to play off that fact that it wasn't a common theme, that no one really knew, that they didn't know where the hell New Zealand was, and the part of Australia, things like that. All these things that people are already joking about, but they just highlighted a little bit more. No, that makes a lot of sense. So thinking about New Zealand in the future, imagine, Guy, you come back in 2050. What would you like to see? What is your vision for New Zealand? What are your goals that you'd like to see here? Well, in 2050, I just hope that it's above water, to be honest. Okay. And I think that's another part of where we are. Literally or figuratively? Literally. Okay. I think climate change is very much the elephant in the room. It always has been. It's been like for 20 years. Yes. And it is a very cliche topic, but nonetheless, it's an issue that we're going to have to deal with. Yes. And I think that kind of comes back to my point with where we can influence that in the global community, because if it's going to directly affect anyone, it's definitely going to be us. Yes. And that's not just in terms of our lives and our country as a whole, but our trade, our economic outlook, and what's been invested in this country. So we need to take a more serious stance on that, in my opinion. And I guess the goal for 2015 from there would be to continue thriving, to continue growing at the rate that we're growing, which is amazing. Like, being able to compete with the US dollar like we are now for such a small country is incredible. And as long as we, don't just maintain that, we grow and keep going that, but doing it sustainably is key. So if I were to just check on understanding you,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is that you would like New Zealand to embrace and create a sustainable, conscious, green, capitalist society.
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't mean in a kind of, I don't mean green in perhaps I mean the best of both worlds, where you have a thriving economy that is also responsible.
Exactly.
Because green can mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
That's why I'm being a bit careful with the word.
I mean, we're already green, right?
Yeah.
Or you'd hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, capitalist is the right word. Like,
Yes.
I think we should be using the innovations that we know, using the technology that we've come across to help try and mitigate the risk that I think all future generations are going to face.
And you mentioned the potential of water levels rising and things like that. And every nation fed in Pacific Islands in particular. I just wondered whether or not that you were thinking, oh, the impact will be here because Auckland's low-lying, for example, or I'm just trying to understand why you particularly felt it was a threat here, because, you know, in Holland,
Yeah.
they've got a real problem.
They do. Yeah.
So I just wondered if there was knowledge that you had that maybe the audience doesn't have, or I don't have, or whatever, about climate change in New Zealand.
I don't think there's any knowledge that I don't have that's already out
Okay.
in the media.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I said to you images of New Zealand, right? I tapped you, you're making a cup of tea in the morning, and I come up to you and say, Guy, hey, New Zealand. What are the images that come to mind for you?
Images of New Zealand. I mean, there's all the cliches of beaches, jandals, barbecues, thongs, beers on the beach, all those things. All those things that I love, and I'm sure you've heard 100 times.
Yes.
But a great image for me is the New Zealand passport.
Yeah.
Now that might sound really, really boring.
No.
But when you see that passport, when you travel, when you're overseas, you automatically identify with it. It's quite a unique looking passport.
Yes,
and it means a lot. I mean, for a very boring piece of paper that it doesn't really mean a lot in a physical sense. It gives us so much freedom. It gives us so much power to be able to do what we want to do. It gives us a huge amount of credibility in the international world, in the globe, sorry. And I think it's, although a very boring image, it is an image which everyone can recognise.
So it kind of means freedom to you.
To me, it does. Yeah.
That's what I'm picking up on. That's very powerful, and distinctive freedom.
Yeah.
Is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thinking about the giant question, which sort of relates to the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
How do we unite humanity? What do we do to get better at living together? How do we do that?
This is where I get morbid. But I do think a global crisis would unite humanity.
Okay.
It's one of those things, you know, that old adage of the frog and the hot water just slowly boiling up. But you look at the history of humans, the human race, and all crises, all major global disasters or societal disasters have brought people together to help for a common cause.
Yes.
And that's where humanity unites, when there is a common cause.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that might be our common cause.
Yes. And I suppose the question is whether or not we'll do it quickly enough, or whether or not it'll be so slow that we'll be fried before we notice.
Yeah, well, God only knows, but we'll find out, and I'm sure when we do find out, we'll unite.
If I meet you next time and I'm toasted, we'll know, right?
Yeah, we'll be best mates.
Hi, Toasty.
Yeah.
Okay, so this project, 100 interviews this year, 1,000 next year. We're going to encourage the crowd to filter the content, so
cool.
We'll surface some of it, so it'll be a a co-creative exercise on filtering.
Wow,
and,
that's
and
amazing.
then we'll be taking the film to John Key. I stress it could be John Key, Tim Dack, Harry, whatever political party. The idea is to bring social media democracy to New Zealand. To kind of go, well, New Zealand was the first place in the world where women voted. Why not have an ongoing mechanism to have accountability and a voice heard? So let's just stay with the grounded bit right now, which is we're going to do the John Key bit, present that.
Cool.
What would you hope that would achieve? So we're going to summarise the film.
I think that in a way it'll answer all the questions that you've asked me previously. One of them being, I think what you're trying to get the heart at, correct me if I'm wrong, is what is the identity of New Zealand now?
Correct. Yes.
And where are we going?
Yes.
Because that is a huge question. And I don't think we quite know where we're going and what our identity is. We've got a few stereotypes that we're attaching ourselves to, but if you look at the reality of it, we're a much different country now, and it hasn't really been clearly defined. So I think a project like this will define that.
Okay. Well, that's the ambition, is to allow the crowd to work that through together.
Yeah.
You know? So, wow, okay, I'm just kind of sitting on those disruptive words. You know. That's very, very powerful and really insightful. So thank you.
No, thank you.
For
That's
taking
awesome.
the time. That's been fantastic. And we'll give you the little present from Eudoo. So we'll just turn the camera off and share some unique IP with you.
Okay, cool.